good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome back to the It's Just Us podcast. My name is Emmanuel Wallace, and you are tuning into Season 5, Episode 3, going through one of our new releases, Breakthrough. I'm Still Here. Now, if you guys are interested in finding any of our other books or any of the books that we've gone through past episodes, feel free to check below in the description where you'll find our Shopify and website. Also, the website is always on my left side beneath me saying www.dreampublications.org if you want to buy a book that way. Or you can check out lulu.com. We have some on Amazon as well. Feel free to check those out. And if you need help with any of that, leave a comment below. Or if you'd like more information, leave a comment below. Or check out our other videos throughout this podcast. Today we will be reading chapter 4, talking about the what ifs, and I'm excited to go through this one because what if is a great question, but it's also a very taxing question if it's asked in the wrong context or if it's asked with fear in mind. So I'm excited to go through this wall that we face, and I know I faced it, questioning what happens if, what if this happens, what if this doesn't happen, what if I can't, what if I do, what if I don't, so just going through that with you guys today while reading this book is going to be fun for me, and I hope you guys get something out of it as well, like we have been doing in the new DP fashion. We'll be starting off with a poem. This is a new poem written by me called Silver and Gold. Also, this is a possibility. It's not necessarily set in stone, but we might be having a new poetry collection coming out sometime this year, later on. I would like to do it in April, but time does not permit right now. But it'll be called Faith Has Legs, so be on the lookout for that. We also have 2 new books coming out. One is a workbook, and then the other is just a straight up book. We have When Disciples Fall But Get Back Up Again, comparing and contrasting Peter and Judas in their walks with God and how they betrayed Jesus, but also one got up, one stayed down. And then also just looking at how we as disciples can grow and develop through failure, and how failure is not the end for us, and we can go beyond that. And just seeing that, yes, there are times when God shows up when we want him to, when we don't expect him to, and then also times where he takes his time. So just going through those things, the things that will cause us to stumble sometimes, and how they can be beneficial to us if we see them in the right way. So that is When Disciples Fall. The next one is Karam Deo. This is actually a workbook designed from a question I asked myself. I asked a friend to start it. And that question was, if someone were to watch you or to watch me for 7 days, would they get closer to God or further away from him? Would their walk with God be influenced in a positive way or in a negative way? And that workbook is just designed to really take a look at myself, look at me. What am I doing on a daily basis? How am I pursuing God on a daily basis? How am I using my time? And if somebody were to be right there with me, what would change? What would stay the same? What would I adjust? And just expressing and changing and seeing how that all goes. I did this myself, so I know it helps me a lot, just see where I am and see the difference between even just how many times I touch my phone versus my Bible. And that in itself is eye-opening. How many times I pray, what kind of things am I talking to God about, what kind of things am I talking to my peers about? And those things matter as well, because if somebody's watching me, are those things beneficial to them? And how would they be impacted by that? So just asking that question is very important to me. And I pray that when they come out, I'll probably have a copy next week when I record to show you of Karam Deo. When Disciples Fall is still in progress, but that'll be coming out in June this year. And then Karam Deo will be coming out in July. We'll also be having a book signing August 8th of this year, so be on the lookout for that as well. Without further ado, I know it's been 5 minutes. Silver and gold. Silver and gold. Silver and gold. I'd rather have Jesus than silver and gold. The treasures of this world aren't enough. It's just stuff. If I had the whole world, I'd give it away. I refuse to be swayed. I can't let my progression be delayed with a need to leave an impression. Viewer's discretion. A life bent on precious things without the most precious being is a life of toys and mock joy without meaning. Silver and gold. They're beautiful, I know. But if we dig a little deeper, will we not find diamonds? Silver and gold. They're valuable, I know. But when markets crash, how long does that same price tag last? Silver and gold. I can hold them in my hand, I know. But they can never repay the warmth. I can control where they go. But they can never repay the warmth. I can control where they go, and what I wanted, and what I do with them, sold. But they're not Jesus. They aren't enough to measure up to him. They have price tags. He has a life end. They have rings and bands. He has crowns and nail-scarred hands. Gold can't pay for my eternity. Forever we'll see, but Jesus has already covered me. Silver, home, heaven, that place I long to see. Silver and gold, make sure you wait there for me. Gold, I'll walk across your face, and silver, I'll remember your weight. 30 pieces to save. My soul thanks you. Now I'm no longer waived. Silver and gold, silver and gold. I'd rather have Jesus than silver and gold. So that was Silver and Gold by me. I know I stumbled quite a bit. Ooh, my eyes got blurry there. I don't know why, but yeah, I was running on like 3 hours of sleep. Well, 5 hours for the past 2 days. But that's my fault. But yeah, so that's Silver and Gold. Also, be on the lookout for that poetry collection. I'm excited for that. But today, the real show. Talking about breakthrough. Chapter number 4, the what ifs. And we're going to start off at the very first page of that chapter, page 56. And I know that me reading this kind of, just follow along with me. Follow along with me. It says, what if I told you it wasn't possible? What if it doesn't happen? What if it wasn't answered? What if none of it pays off? What if? What if? What if? What if it was all for nothing? What if it wasn't his will for my life? For it all to end with a what if, what would you count it? We live in a world full of opportunity. A world full of variables that shout no and whisper yes. One that is frightening without faith. Have you ever walked into a room without a light switch in the dead of night with nothing but a window and a sliver of light? I don't wonder what it's like to brood in the darkness. I know how appealing it is, how cinematic the atmosphere seems, how powerful thoughts can become with a convincing negative what if becomes a lifestyle. You can control the if. The if is the way you see the situation. The if will always be a matter of faith. And I say always with confidence because where there is choice involved, there will be a variable of belief beyond basic understanding. Why do you care? Because deep down, when you ask the question, what if, you have to consider the motive behind it. What can you receive from God with second thoughts? James chapter 4, verse 2-3 says, You lust and have not. Ye kill and desire to have and cannot obtain. Ye fight and war, yet ye have not, because ye ask not. Ye ask and receive not, because ye ask amiss, that ye may consume it upon your lusts. The scripture is riddled with imagery, with imaginary what ifs. When you look at it closely, the measure that is taken to obtain things that would give us pleasure is wild. We'd rather scheme to find a way to defy the odds than simply ask God. In this portion of scripture, we see a form of what if that represents more than just a lack of trust. We see a lack of reliance and dependence on God. In a sense, James is asking us, why do you continue to ask within yourselves, what if Why do you continue to ask within yourselves, what if we don't need God to get what we want? We'll just take it. This is a question we ask ourselves most frequently in crisis situations. When tension is high and reason is low, we tend to lean on our own discernment, our own knowledge, and our own understanding. We're quick to shift when we don't trust God to do what he said he would do, though we are slow to listen when he says wait. Gideon, a mighty man of valor, suffered from what-if syndrome because before he ever stepped into who God had called him to be, his tool of uncertainty, a fleece. I know it's a stretch, but how often do you ask yourself, what if I'm not the one God's looking for? Is it really me or who he thinks I am? I'm the total opposite of that person. Once again, we're faced with self-perception. I hope you see the trend. Very seldom are the walls we face created by outside sources. Most will be formed in the mirror. God doesn't allow mountains to form that you can't overcome. Guys, I can't talk today. I'm not saying he won't give you more than you can handle, because if he didn't, we'd never need him to bring us through. He wants us to rely on him, and we definitely couldn't do that if our own strength was enough. No person is able to handle everything in his world alone. The Bible doesn't say we can, but it does say we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. He's able to position us for the cause, his preparations. Yeah, there will be some what ifs, but they shouldn't be cripplers or enablers of faith. We should be quicker to recognize that God is able to do far beyond what we're capable of. There's plenty of room for uncertainty in this life, and there's plenty of room for the unknown to creep in without us ever being aware of its significance. But what if it doesn't matter? But it does. Everything that equates to substance is built on the pursuit of faithful what ifs. What if it works out? What if I make it through? What if my life turns around? What if even in the midst of this struggle, my faith will be made greater? What if it pays off in the end? What if I ended the book right here? Reason would say I left you with nothing. Literature would say the work is incomplete. And I would say, what if that's the point? Not every story is written the same way for a reason. There is an intention behind every moment in the story's authors write. For me as an author, I feel I have an avenue to connect with God on familiar ground. For you, it may be music, art, handiwork, etc. It varies. We vary. Our stories vary. But they all come back to one pen, one author. Despite the many covers that press the face of millions, billions of pages, only one is aware of every line, crease, stroke, and indent. There's nothing that he misses. The essence of who he is rooted in the delicacies of life. God is not a genie that answers and grants every wish because we ask for it. He doesn't always pamper us with blessings and send us on our way. He doesn't always tell or show us the clear path he wants us to take. Sometimes the author wants the story to trust the process. It's funny because most authors write with a plot diagram. There is intention behind their process. God does too, but the difference between the two is regular authors like me and the countless other writers in the world create characters that have no freedom to ask or shift the diagram they're put on. They have no freedom in regards to their destiny. They aren't given a pen of their own, yet the illusion is almost perfect. So long as the character stays alive, the story is compelling and beautifully illustrated. No one would know the character had nothing to do with it. This is how we would hope our relationship with God is. It can be, but the only thing is when we look at our lives, we're not looking at a complete story. Yes, the author knows what's going to happen, And yes, he has the pen in his hand, but he didn't leave us empty-handed. God won't write on a page that prefers to be empty, full of broken scratches, because we too have a pen. This is the difference between us regular authors and God. He's not writing a fiction story or a nonfiction memoir or essay. He's writing lives, and he gives us a pen to use also. He gives us free will to decide which what if we'll add to the page, which direction we want to go, so that he can continue to write the story. God gave us the ability to choose which direction our plot will go, and the two pathways he gives us are faith and unbelief. Or in other words, trust God or neglect him. No one else is responsible for my story but me. No one else is responsible for your story but you. Look at your hand. That is what's responsible. Look at your eyes. That is what's responsible. Look at your ears. That is what's responsible. And look at your feet. That is what's responsible. Do you know where your heart is rooted? Do you know where your thoughts linger? Are you aware of the state of your soul? What directs your actions? Rather, who directs your steps? Why? How did they gain influence? And where did they come from? If you've ever had to deal with the agony of filling out writing prompts, you can see where I'm going with this. There they are, laid out in front of you, each asking you to say something entirely different than its counterpart. And at the end, there is one final question that reads, which do you choose? Go the way you've written or author's choice? This is also the beauty of the what if. It's a matter of faith and fear. Faith and faith. As you choose the prompt, you have to decide which way you'll go. Then come the expectations, the rules placed on these prompts that hinder us from truly experiencing the clause, if not navigated with expert care. Not all of us have expert care in our daily routine. There will come a time where the prompt just doesn't make sense. That's when you have to let go of the pen. The minute you try to write the story to a prompt you don't understand is the minute you say, my way is better than God's way. Even in situations that seem so clear that anyone could write the story, behind everything, there is a God-given reason. A line that starts a new segment. An indent that tells us it's okay to sit back and relax for a while. It profits us nothing to write the perfect story and miss the blessed story. What can we add to our own lives that God can't exceed? What if we just believed? What if we let God do his thing? I mean, we don't stop the painter from creating a masterpiece just because we don't see the end goal yet. So we shouldn't stop God. We shouldn't try to stop the work God is trying to do. And this is a relational thing. We shouldn't be afraid to communicate. It requires relational effort. It requires time. To overcome a what if moment, the key is to simply communicate. Open the door for God to explain his work, to reveal the purpose behind his pen strokes, and unravel the definition of unknown variables yet to be unearthed. Give him room to be God. So that was chapter talking about the what ifs. And I know we go through seasons of life where we wonder what's going to happen if I do this or if I don't do that, if I take a chance and if I don't. My answer to that is simple. Pray about it. Seek God about it. And he will lead you and guide you into what you need to do, what you should do. And sometimes the what if is a matter of faith and fear. Like I said, you decide. Because fear is just the faith that you have in the fact that it won't work in your favor. The faith is trusting that God's will be done regardless, whether it turns out the way I want it to or not. Because the end result is that much better. Because God's hand is in it. And I'd rather have God's hand in it than my own, because unfortunately my hands are not the most steady. I scribble from time to time. My penmanship is hard to read, and I don't even understand what I'm writing before I begin writing. But if God already knows the story, and if he's prepared to write a masterpiece in me and through me, I'll let him. So what if we surrendered and submitted to his will for our lives? And yes, we will constantly pick up the pen from time to time and feel the need to add an integer or two, add a word or two. But if we just let God write the story and we follow his pen, we follow his lead, imagine where we could go. Imagine who we will become. Imagine what we'll see, what we'll do. If we just learn to trust him, we will have what if moments. We will ask that question, whether directly or indirectly. We might not even ever say the words what if, but we'll have the thought, if I do this or if I don't do this, what's going to happen to my image, my appearance, me as a person, the person around me? For me, because I want to be a soul winner, for me, that question is always, what happens if I do, rather than what happens if I don't? And I want that question to be answered with an I did. Because you never know who needs a kind word, who needs a verse, who needs prayer, who needs somebody to believe in them, who needs somebody to invest in them. So for me, my what ifs have to become, I trust God anyway. I don't know what's going to happen, but I trust God anyway. And that's kind of where I want us to get with this, is understanding that yes, that wall does exist, but God is bigger than that wall. And yes, we will ask the question, what if? But he already has the answer. And he's already seen beyond the what if. But we have to be willing to trust him. We have to be willing to communicate with him. God, this is my concern. I don't know what's going to happen. It bothers me that I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm trying to trust you. And sometimes it's not saying I'm trying to trust you. It's saying I trust you even if I don't trust you right now. I'm going to trust you. Because your ways are higher than my ways and your thoughts are higher than my thoughts. We know that he knows things that we don't know. We know that he understands things in a way that we don't understand. So he's already made a way for us. We just have to walk in it. So let's walk in it. Even if we have to walk uncertainly, even if we have to walk afraid for a little bit, we can trust that God's ways are greater than our ways and that he will make a way beyond the what if. So that was episode 3 of season 5, talking about breakthrough. I'm still here. The what ifs in chapter 4. My name is Emmanuel Wallace, and once again, if you'd be interested in buying any of these books, feel free to check the description below. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do. But otherwise, you guys have a great day, great evening / afternoon, and a beautiful night. Peace.